Well, guys, I saw Sonic. Not on Valentine's Day. I saw it the day after, but I saw Sonic, and I've tried to say a few times on this channel that I'm a fan of Sonic, but maybe you guys don't realize that. Maybe I haven't made that perfectly clear. I have a video where I talked about why I'm not buying Sonic Forces that I made before Sonic Forces came out. But I mean, I love Sonic. But when I say I love Sonic, I love Genesis Sonic. I love Dreamcast Sonic. Yes, I actually had a Dreamcast. That's how I played Adventure 1 and 2. I didn't play them on GameCube. I played them on Dreamcast. And I liked other Sonic things like Sonic Battle, and I'd like Sonic Advance, but they're kind of not as good as the old school stuff. And then, you know, I like Sonic 4 Episode 2, but only Sonic 4 Episode 2. Besides that, I think Sonic Generations is a little overrated, but it's a step in the right direction. And I just think like every other Sonic game is pretty much meh. Even I know people like Sonic Colors and Sonic Unleashed, but for me, meh. I just like Adventure 2 and Adventure 1 and the classic games. And Mania came out, and that was my shit. So, I mean, I still love Sonic. It's hard for me to not love Sonic. I think I'll always love Sonic, mainly just because the games that are good are just that fucking good for me, personally. So, this movie came out, and obviously the first trailer, and everyone thought this was a shit show, and, I mean, it looked generic. Not just that the character of Sonic looked awful, but just like the comedy looked bad, the fact it was playing Gangster's Paradise, and it didn't fit the tone at all. It was a bad trailer. People in charge at that point were not doing a good job. Now, I heard that the movie was not really complete at that time, and they only really did the CGI for the trailer, and everything else was still like in pre-production, I guess. And I gotta say, the way Sonic looks now is, I can't imagine. People are all saying like, I just want to picture the scenes with the original version of Sonic, and I can't picture them because they're so. It seems like this movie was tailor made for this version of Sonic, who's smaller, who has way bigger eyes. He looks way cuter, and the thing is, like, the scene where like it's in one of the trailers, but he's like got like towels wrapped around him like a lady. And if his eyes aren't big like that, it's just gonna look stupid. Like, the fact that he has a cartoony face really makes him as appealing as he is. If he didn't have the cartoony face, the thing would just look really awful and ugly. Like, it just would not look good at all. But as far as like this movie, the way it is right now, what can I say? It looks awesome. Sonic has a really good redesign, and is the movie worth going to see just because it's a good redesign? Well, yeah, I think the fact that they listened to the fans, but they also listened to Sega, who was not happy about the design. And I mean, that's Sega of Japan. I'm not talking like Sega read the tweets and were like, oh, they're making fun of the movie. No, they're literally in Japan. They don't give a shit about American Twitter or European Twitter. They saw it themselves and said, no, this is bad. And they did this on test audiences, and they all said it was bad too. I mean, no one liked it. Normally I would say, something like a visual being bad, it's only really objectively bad if they're trying to make something really impressive, and it's like this really blocky, glitchy mess. And then, if it doesn't work, if the movie's not presenting an actual character, then that's, I guess, objectively bad. But you can't really say the original design is objectively bad. It's subjectively bad. But it's funny because I feel like every single person hated the design, and the only people who were excited for the Sonic movie were there to make fun of it. And honestly, that's not as big of a crowd. You're going to get way less people, and most people are just going to wait for it on DVD, or they're just not even going to talk about it or watch it or care. They're just going to watch the YouTube clips. They're just going to watch people make fun of it online. But you know what? I went and saw it, and with the new redesign. And I think it's safe to say it's subjectively bad, but the old design was basically objectively bad. I think everyone fucking agrees it's awful. It might be the first subjective opinion that everyone on the entire planet agrees is they should have never made him look like that. It was terrible. Such a bad decision. I mean, who was in charge? But they got people who actually work on Sonic to help with the redesign. He still has like blue arms, and he has the fur between his eyes, but you know what? If you're going to redesign Sonic and make him look like a CGI, more realistic human-looking creature, like something that would actually exist in our world, he doesn't fit in. He doesn't look like he belongs. It looks like there's a cartoon character hanging out with these humans, But you know what? That's fine. It looks fine. Like Pokemon, for that movie, for Detective Pikachu, yes, they put in a lot of like more realistic textures. Like Pikachu has like very long fur hairs, and Charizard looks scaly, stuff like that. But that's about it. Everything else is pretty like faithful to the original designs. So this is all they need to do with Sonic. Just originally he had like white hands instead of white gloves. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, this is what they needed to do. But that's just the visuals, okay? I don't want to say too many spoilers in this review, because honestly, I think a lot of people might be, unsure if they should go watch this movie. Because for one, it's a family movie, and for two, it's a video game movie, and those don't always go well. But this is Sonic, and Sonic also doesn't always go well. But you have to remember, this isn't whoever's making the games right now. This is a movie studio with a decent voice actor who's a pretty funny guy, and a great villain, which is of course Jim Carrey. Now, Jim Carrey is not Eggman from the games, but Sonic is not really Sonic from the games either. This is not really the games. There's references to the games. You're supposed to know about the games. Like, they live in a place called Green Hills, and Sonic has, well, I don't want to say too much, but they reference other quote-unquote zones from the games. They reference other things from the games, and they do it in really, really cool ways. They changed the way rings work, but it kind of reminds me of the warp rings from Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles, where it takes you to a Emerald stage. It's kind of like that, but they don't go to Emerald stages in this. They just kind of use them to warp around, which is kind of cool. So that's fine. And also, it'd be really hard to do rings like flying out of Sonic when he gets damaged. That would look kind of silly. But they did do stuff where Sonic was like trying to collect his rings again, and when he would get hit, they'd all fall out of his bag. So I kind of like how they try to do like a realistic explanation. Instead of him like absorbing rings, it's like he's putting them in his bag. And I mean, like, if you saw a video game movie, like, you wouldn't want Mario to just like touch a mushroom and he just automatically gets big. You would want like him to eat the mushroom and then for something realistic to happen after that. So giving him the realistic aspect to it of him actually having to grab rings and put it in a pouch makes a lot of sense. And I'm totally fine with that decision. I think it was a good decision. And then besides that, it's this reference city from, and not in a cringy way. It's very clever. And basically the way they handled Sonic is sometimes I laugh, sometimes I don't, but I didn't cringe, okay? If jokes failed, I would just be like, they were never cringy jokes. They were always like, oh yeah, it's a kid's movie. There's only two parts from Sonic that I cringed, and they both involve flossing, which everyone's already making fun of on Twitter. I don't know why he flosses. I wish he didn't. It's very cringy. But it's the only cringy parts of the movie, except for scenes with the supporting character, Tom. Now, Tom is a cop, which is fine. He's the cop of a small town, and he's kind of friendly with everyone, and Sonic has a good reason to like him, because his wife is a veterinarian, and because of that, Tom is very kind to animals. That fits Sonic's character. Sonic should be kind to animals, not just because he is one, but that's the whole point of his games. He wants to protect his animal friends from mankind disturbing their natural habitat. Dr. Robotnik is not the kind of scientist who cares about environmental stuff. He's not a climate scientist. Dr. Robotnik's the kind of scientist who doesn't care about destroying the environment in order to forward his scientific discoveries. All he cares about is the here and now. He doesn't care about the long-term effects. That's kind of going deep into it, but that's kind of the way I've always perceived it, on why Sonic and Robotnik are rivals with each other. Because Robotnik wants to destroy landscapes and machinize everything and turn animals into robots and just that serve him. And Sonic's not about that. Sonic's about the natural world around him. They don't really explore that topic in the games and stuff too much. I think it's because the writers aren't very good. That's fine. But that's the way I've always interpreted it. It just makes too much sense with those two character archetypes. And this iteration, Sonic is all alone and wants to make friends. And Eggman doesn't care about human life. He walks all over humans. Now this is cool because, again, Sonic likes Tom because Tom likes animals. but Sonic and Tom get along also because they both are heroic and they want to save people. And Sonic wants to save people. Sonic, Sonic never has that problem. He never has that discussion. He's like, do I trust mortal men? Do I trust humans? Sonic never has that issue. He's like, no. People can be good and people can be bad. And the good people need to be defended from the bad people. And so Sonic wants to make friends, and Robotnik hates people. He doesn't want to have any friends. He wants to be alone with his machines. That's all he cares about. And it is a really interesting... They're basically Eggman and Sonic. They're polar opposites, but they manage to make these two characters perfect foils for each other in personality. Which, the fun thing about Eggman in this movie is he's basically just Jim Carrey. It's just Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey. But they wrote around Jim Carrey and how they wanted to do this character perfectly. I mean, honestly, the reason why this movie's so good and people are praising this movie is because they love Jim Carrey's performance as Dr. Robotnik, which I will get into more later. But the fact that Sonic and Robotnik are such great foils for each other really drives this movie. Like, some people say Eggman carried this movie, and I absolutely disagree. I mean, there's times where some of the things Eggman does is really funny, and some things he does is really crazy. Some things he does is just like, that's just Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey. Like, I feel like there's certain scenes where Jim Carrey was like, can I try this? Can I try this? And they let him try and put in the funniest thing. And I mean, there's some scenes that are fucking hilarious. Like, no joke. There's some obvious, very overt adult humor that even kids will probably understand because it's that obvious. And I love it. I mean, this idea of like this movie having attitude, even though it's for kids, that's what Sonic's all about. This idea that Jim Carrey from the 90s is in this movie, even though that fits in with this 90s nostalgic thing with Sonic in the first place. Like, when Jim Carrey was big, Sonic was big. So it's a perfect fit, in my opinion. And now Jim Carrey's at the age where, it's like when he did Kick-Ass 2, he said like he wished the movie wasn't as violent and he doesn't actually support guns and all that stuff. And he got really political for a bit. But now, this movie is Jim Carrey gets to be wacky and he gets to act for kids. And I think that's what Jim Carrey wants to do. He just wants to play wacky, kooky characters, and he wants to be in movies that will more so bring positivity to the world. And I'm not saying a movie like Kick-Ass 2 can't bring positivity to the world, but in his perspective, he doesn't appreciate the level of violence in that movie. So I think for him, a movie like Sonic works out a lot better. Sonic also does a lot of things right with the human characters, which is what I want to talk about with Tom. Tom is the most cringy part of the movie, but only because Tom is the generic male character that he's in all the movies. Almost every movie nowadays, the reason why people don't like movies anymore, don't care, is because they're trying to make this male character so relatable, and they're just boring to watch. They're uninteresting. No one wants to relate to these people because they're not exciting or cool. And, I think for the most part, people would probably rather relate to Sonic in this movie. People, and I mean, maybe the kids are supposed to relate to Sonic, and the adult's supposed to relate to the male character. But at the end of the day, you just don't relate to him at all because he's just such a boring character. But even though he's really boring, he brings nothing to the table, and I can't say he brings nothing to the table as far as personality. But as far as like character stuff, he does a pretty good job. It's really not even the actor, it's really the writing for the character. They did a pretty decent job with this character. This movie has product placement in it, and it's really annoying. There's one with Zillow with the apartments, and it's not that bad. It didn't bother me, but it doesn't go anywhere. Like, it's just in the movie for almost no reason. Like, they clearly could have cut it out, but it kind of breaks the pace, and it's kind of a little jarring because it's so noticeable. But it doesn't bother me that badly. I don't hate product placement in movies as long as it's done correctly or in a good way, and it's not overdone. There's mentions of another thing. I don't want to spoil things because it's literally part of a joke, and you might enjoy it. But some of the product placement in this movie is a little too noticeable, and it takes me out of it a little bit. I'm not going to make a spoiler video, so don't. Even though I will say stay for the credits, because holy shit, one of the end scenes. I mean, you all know this movie's gonna have end scenes that sequel bait. If a movie like this is gonna have an end scene, it's gonna sequel bait. And boy, am I excited for the next one because of the sequel bait at the end. I mean, I'm very excited, and I was excited for it even before that because, first of all, they're doing this right. They're not cramming a bunch of characters into this movie. They're not cramming everything you need about Sonic all in one movie. This movie is well paced. It's kind of like Deadpool in the sense where it relies on like real world humor and pop culture more so than just the source material, but also uses the source material to its fullest advantage. So it's a good mixture of both, and because of that, they don't have to use all of their references and all of their source material all into one movie and have nothing left for the next ones. This movie was very sparingly with the source material, and because of that, what I love about it is it feels like Sonic 1. Like, in this movie, Sonic, he learns to spin dash in this movie. I mean, it doesn't, like, it's not super in your face about it. It doesn't just show it right off the bat, but, like, it's very clear when he does the spin dash, it's the first time he's ever done it. And and I'm not going to spoil what that means, but in the trailer, they showed him doing a spin dash, so I'm not going to spoil what that means. But I will say that, like, yeah, like, Sonic 1, you can't spin dash. So, like, they showed Sonic, like, do the roll into something and do damage to it. And it was like, huh, cool. So, like, a lot of ways, this movie reminds me of Sonic 1, you know, because it's only Sonic and, you know, yeah, I don't want to say too much else. So, but it's clearly supposed to be an origin movie for Sonic, for Robotnik. And what I love is that the sequel bait for the next one, it makes me so excited. Like, I'm so prepared for the next one. Can't wait to see these characters come back, like Jim Carrey with Eggman, and it's gonna be good. And so I will say this about the human characters like Tom. I love that in this movie, Tom is just already married and he's just an adult. I know that's like shitty to say because it's like a family movie and these are for kids, but and in Detective Pikachu, the human character was the kid and Pikachu was more of the adult. And in this movie, the adult character is the adult, and Sonic, you know, the human character is the adult, and Sonic is supposed to be like the kid-like character, which I found to be more fitting. First of all, that's a much better pairing for that kind of style, but also, I love that he's just already married, because in these movies, they always do this stupid shit, and in generic normie movies, where, like, normies are supposed to watch it, and, you know, everyone's supposed to, like, just whatever, they always shove down these stupid fucking morals down our throats, but they're always weird. There's always like weird gender roles. Like, I fucking hated in Detective Pikachu that the Pikachu was just like, dude, you gonna date that girl? You wanna date that girl, don't you? She's a girl and you're a boy. You wanna date her, and guess what? She wants a boy to date. So what are you gonna do about that? And it's like, Jesus fucking Christ, shut up. Don't. It was so forced. Their love interest there was so forced. You could have probably made it better and made it work in a more fitting and natural way, and it would have been fine. I have no problem with love in movies, but the way they handled it was so shittily, and I just don't care. The movie should be about the relationship of a trainer and his Pokemon. And I mean, in this movie, this dude's married and he clearly loves his wife, and him and his wife work together, and it's great. But that's not the fucking point. They're already in an established relationship, and it doesn't matter. And in fact, the fact they're in a relationship adds to his character in a great way, because he has people he cares about. And it's used in this movie in a very good and clever way. Again, it's not even that the actor was that good. It's just that the writing, the script, was really good for that character. And I love it. I love that he doesn't have this stupid scene where Sonic's like, come on, dude, you can fuck this girl. Like, Sonic should not be a part of that. And I love that. I love that they just didn't do that at all. And she's just already in love with him. And his life was perfectly fine before Sonic showed up. He still has a character arc, though. You can make a character arc for a character that doesn't involve someone else. You can make a character arc for a character that doesn't involve falling in love and taking on the next step in his life in that way. And I'm so happy they did that. And the fact this movie came out on Valentine's Day and he did. There's no romance in it. Mwah. Beautiful, just fucking perfect. Instead, it celebrates relationships and love in a different way. It celebrates the non-romantic relationships in your life, like your friends, your family, your neighbors, your community. And I mean, again, Sonic wants friends the whole time, and Eggman wants no friends. And they're not only polar opposites in that way, but eventually there's some really cool ways where it makes Sonic and Eggman seem like real rivals to each other. Which, by the way, and they do that way they handle it is so good, and it's perfect for their characters too. Like they handled it really well. I really love what they did. But another thing is that the way when Sonic calls Robotnik Eggman for the first time, it doesn't feel forced or bad or awful. It actually makes perfect sense. They've actually were setting up that plot point the entire movie. And some people still they don't like cringy nicknames and like a character acting obnoxious in that way. And some people have made fun of some of the other nicknames, but Sonic gives a lot of different characters nicknames and refers to them as those characters or as those nicknames throughout the movie. And because of that, when you get to Robotnik, it's perfect. Now, I don't know if that was a spoiler, but for me personally, it just goes to show the writing in this movie was really fucking good. So it just makes me really happy. Again, I don't think I even need to go into spoilers to review this movie, but let's talk about Jim Carrey for a second. Jim Carrey in this movie, he manages. This feels like Robotnik, but not Robotnik at the same time. What I mean by that is it's mostly Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey. Now, the best way to describe it is really to compare it to the Grinch. You know, in the Grinch, he's the Grinch. You know, it's the Grinch. The mannerisms are down, and he's got the look, he's got the sounds, he's got the motivation. But he changes the Grinch into being more Jim Carrey's Grinch. And because of that, you know, he kind of reinvents the character a little bit. He takes what was there but adds on to it. And what he adds to it is, you know, Jim Carrey-isms, but it ends up working out really well. And basically what it means is that casting Jim Carrey was a good decision. It's not so much that any actor should be able to do any role, but actors should be put in situations that make sense for them as, you know, actors. It's up to the casting and the directors to figure out who should play what and how it should be done. You know, and Eggman as Jim Carrey was a really good take on Eggman. And what I say is it is Eggman, but it's not Eggman to a T. It's not verbatim the same Robotnik we've seen in almost every Sonic media. But what it is a character that's very inspired by Dr. Robotnik from the games and in all the other media, who is also bringing something new to the table, again, a bit more realistic, a bit more based in reality, and kind of recognized in a really good way. Kind of like, this is how this character would be in the real world. And what I love about this is like, for one, he works with the US government, because Dr. Robotnik was a human. He's not an animal character like Sonic, so he's not from Sonic's world, he's from the human world. And basically, in the games, it's more like Robotnik's invading Sonic's world. But in the movie, Sonic's in the human world, and Robotnik's like, oh, what the fuck is this thing? He works with the U.S. government, which that's also been kind of shown off in the trailers. And he's just got this kind of attitude to him, but he's also a super genius. He's one of the he's one of the best scientists known to man, and he's basically like, he reminds me of like if Tony Stark was never turned good. If Tony Stark never turned to a good guy in Iron Man 1, he would be kind of like this character. He's like all the negative aspects of Tony Stark. And I kind of love it for that, because he's such an asshole. And I mean, he's a funny asshole to watch on screen. The way he treats people, it's very clear he's pretty bad. He's not a good person. And he revels in being evil, but it's not cartoonishly villain levels. And when he does funny stuff, it's so well earned. Sometimes it catches me really off guard and I fucking laugh. But it comes from this place where it's like, he knows what's socially acceptable and he chooses to not follow the social rules because he doesn't give a shit about the rules. He only cares about what he thinks is right. And that's what makes him an asshole. But it makes him an asshole that's fun to watch. And when he does like really funny stuff that like you can tell, it's like either the directors and screenwriters are fucking brilliant, or Jim Carrey was just like, can I just do this? And then they just laugh. Like they're just like, go ahead, Jim. And Jim just does some crazy shit. And I mean, Jim Carrey, watching his interviews will make me cringe to the point where I think his movies aren't going to be very good. But Jim Carrey has some of the best movies in the 90s, flat out, hands down. He's a terrific actor who knows when to turn it on and turn it off. And in this movie, he mostly got to leave it on at all times. And that's thanks to the fact that he never needed to be a good person. He never really had to have a character arc. He only had to lose and suffer and fail. And so he got to play, honestly, a role perfect for him, you know? And if this is his triumphant return back to like being in mainstream movies again, I'm all for it. Like, this is awesome. So I think he did a terrific job, and I can't wait to see him in the next one. Some people say Jim Carrey carried this movie. Like I already said, I don't think he did. I think everything as a whole worked together really well, but Jim Carrey is one of the strongest parts of this movie. But to be fair, Robotnik is one of the best parts about Sonic either way. My whole thing, though, is that a lot of times in the games, it seems like Robotnik is a kind of like he's very smart, but he can't figure out how to beat Sonic. And for Sonic, sometimes it seems too easy. In only some plans, Eggman really outsmarts Sonic and beats him. Like Sonic Unleashed, for example, in the beginning of the game. But for the most part, it seems like Eggman creates a million machines and Sonic just beats him every step of the way. It never really pans out in Eggman's favor. You know, not even close. Usually, so that's why, for the most part, people wouldn't really consider Sonic a foil to Eggman as much as Eggman's kind of like a nuisance to Sonic. The characters you consider Sonic's rival or true equals would be more like Metal Sonic, Shadow, you know, characters like that. You wouldn't really consider characters like Eggman to be his greatest rival, but this movie, they set up the dynamic so well. It's amazing. Again, no spoilers. I don't even want to put a spoiler section in the video because I don't want people to accidentally click it or accidentally leave it on or whatever. But yeah, I recommend this movie. You know, at the end of the day, I recommend this movie. Now, I don't really want to do number reviews anymore, but if I had to review it, I would say it's still probably like more like a C+ or like a B-. Maybe B- is more accurate than C+. So I would probably say it's like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. Maybe I'd say it's a 7 out of 10 because when I really think about it, I really enjoyed a lot of aspects of this movie, and I definitely want to see a sequel. I definitely do. But will I watch it again a million times? No, I'll probably get too annoyed with some of the characters, and nah. It's a family movie. It's not really made for that, but if you have kids, you should buy this for them on Blu-ray, especially if you like Sonic and you want, and that, you know, they like Sonic. If they like Sonic, it's if you have a kid who likes Sonic, it's a no-brainer because this movie is a great family movie. This movie will be good for kids who don't know Sonic, kids who do know Sonic. This movie would be good for adults who like Sonic. If you just like kid movies, you'll probably still think this is better. You know, better than a lot of shitty ones. Also, we don't always get family movies that are like, you know, full acting characters that aren't total cheese fests, you know. A lot of times live action kid movies are pretty shit. So this is one of the better live action kid movies for sure. Basically, I think it's a lot, but I think this is miles above Detective Pikachu. I think Detective Pikachu is like a 5 or a 4. This movie is just, it's out of Detective Pikachu's league. This is a far superior movie. So that's a L for Nintendo and a win, a W for Sonic. But which is crazy to think Sonic or Sega's beating Nintendo at something, but holy shit, they are when it comes to these movies. Now, maybe if they make a Mario Brothers movie, maybe it would change my mind, but Mario Brothers movie would be live action in the sense that Mario and Luigi would be live action, so we'll see. But I do love Mario and Luigi. I love artwork of Mario and Luigi, and I love comics and story cartoons and stuff with Mario and Luigi. That's why I like the Mario and Luigi games. I mean, I would love to see Mario and Luigi on the big screen, but it would probably be a full animated movie or an awkward live action movie. So it might not be the best, but either way, I'm fine with it. I mean, I think it's awesome. So, but Sonic, this is probably one of my favorite video game movies so far. I mean, I know a lot of people want to say Mortal Kombat, but you know, Mortal Kombat's kind of a dated, silly, cheesy movie. It works because the cheese and the serious action actually end up both being entertaining in a way that's very fun and enjoyable, but a lot of other video game movies are not quite up there. I mean, Street Fighter 2, or well, really, it's just called Street Fighter. Ugh. What the fuck? Mario Brothers movie? Give me a break with that shit. That movie is endearing when you're a kid in the 90s, but watching it now and watching it not as a kid, it's almost impossible to enjoy it. You can see what they were going for with some of the scenes, but for the most part, man, what a joke. And then when it comes to what other video game movies are, I mean, Double Dragon is probably one of the worst I've ever seen, which is hugely upsetting because they could have easily made a good one, but they barely followed the source material at all. Mortal Kombat Annihilation is awful. Doom is pretty fucking bad, the one with The Rock in it, but I've heard the new Doom movie's also pretty bad, which is sad because that's not even a dated movie. I mean, video game movies now should be good, and Detective Pikachu was miles above a lot of those 90s ones, but video game movies should be better by now, for Christ's sake. People actually grew up with the source material. People actually respect video games a lot more as an art form. These movies should not be shit. They should be pretty decent. What else is there? I mean, Witcher is kind of hard to compare to, but Witcher's a video game TV show thing that is done with a huge, tremendous amount of respect. And I don't expect everything to be done on that level, because The Witcher is an actual fucking really good TV show. I don't expect Sonic to be done on that level, because Sonic's supposed to be a family movie, and Witcher's a hardcore R-rated TV show with lots of character development because it's a show with multiple episodes. But, you know, again, when it comes to Sonic, personally, I think it's probably my favorite video game movie. Especially for going PG and only PG, nothing higher. It's by far one of my favorites. So, I'm really happy about this. I cannot wait for a sequel. Like, I'm so happy there's going to be more Sonic movies. Especially the way this one ended. I mean, I'm ecstatic. So I have no. I'm just. My advice is that if you are interested in this, you should watch it. Now, if you really don't care, I'm not gonna tell you to watch it because it's really not the best movie ever. You know, it's just like pretty okay. It's not gonna blow you away. Obviously, it's a family movie, but if you like Sonic, you'll probably like this. If you normally like these kind of movies, you'll probably like this. If you have family that you want to see this with, you'll probably enjoy it. It's not boring to sit through. It's got good jokes. It's got some stinkers in there, but nothing super cringy. And it's for the most part pretty enjoyable with well-written characters and a good environment. So, and a good message. It's kind of a generic message, but it ends up working pretty well. And yeah, so at the end of the day, yeah, Sonic, good job. You get a gold star, Sonic. I might give you a 7 out of 10 or a B-, but you get a gold star. So, would love to see more from you in the future. Hoping you improve on some of the shittier stuff. Maybe this movie will have a high enough budget this time where they don't have to put so many ads in it. And maybe, there's probably going to be more Sonic characters because they've already made a movie with only Sonic in it. So it'd be really weird if they didn't introduce more. You know, kind of like how Deadpool 2 introduced more X-Men characters. And you know how lots of movies with sequels, like Iron Man 2 had War Machine in it, and Captain America 2 had Winter Soldier in it. So let's hope there's more Sonic characters, because there's a bunch of them. Which also, by the way, the lore for this, it's in one of the very first scenes of the movie, but the lore for Sonic featured characters that I didn't expect to see. And if I say it like this, you guys might be like, what? But no, but for real, seeing those characters was fucking... It put me in such a good mood for the rest of the movie that I was just like, holy shit, they are really, really, really trying to do their own thing, but still pay justice to the original source material. And if that's how you're supposed to do a fucking movie, you need to do your own thing, because if they want to play the story, the original story is in the game. They don't need the movie. Games can replace movies. I mean, if they made a Last of Us movie or a TV show that was verbatim The Last of Us, would you really care? No, because you can just watch, you just play the game. You'd probably rather want a movie that's like a side story or something like that. Something in between Last of Us 1 and 2, or maybe something before Last of Us or something like that. You really wouldn't need it to be a movie because the game tells the story just fine. In fact, it probably tells it better than the movie could have anyway. So really, you should be doing your own original idea. And they do their own thing. They just take a spin on the Sonic lore, but they do such a fantastic job with paying great respects to the source material that it really is. I mean, here's the funny thing. People make fun of Sonic games all the time, but the Sonic cartoons in the 90s were good. The Sonic comics, most people like people who read them. Like, I mean, I've only really read the Mega Man Sonic crossover stuff, but I really liked it. I was kind of more interested in the Mega Man comics, to be honest. Those looked really good. But Sonic, you can get it, boy. You can get it, boy. Sonic media is always good, man. Maybe not Sonic Underground, but for the most part, Sonic media is usually pretty good. So, good job. I mean, I already said this movie's good multiple times, so this review's over. But I'm happy, man. Good on you. All right, let's hope that there's other Sonic games coming that are good. Sonic Racing was really good. I think that was a really good game, but let's see if we get a more traditional Sonic game or a sequel to Sonic Mania. I mean, we're at that time now. We're gonna be getting. We got the Sonic Racing game. We're at that time now where the next Sonic game announced could be something really cool. Might have to wait till E3 to see it, but could be fucking cool. But man, I'm mostly hoping for a spiritual success, or either a successor to Sonic Mania or a full-on sequel to Sonic Mania, like Sonic Mania 2 or something like that. So, and if there's a 3D Sonic game coming, I hope it's better than Forces, and I hope they do a good job with it. But I'm going to end this one here, and I'm going to see you guys on the next one. Go watch Sonic.